Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the Karak with Mehreen show. I'm very, very excited about today's guest. He is the founder of Nova Studios, a creative marketing agency. He is also a YouTuber where he shares his experiences coming to Dubai, living here alone in your 20s. He uses storytelling to share beautiful stories about life in Pakistan, about mental health, and lots of different interesting topics. He is super talented, super creative, and sometimes funny. Let me please welcome Umer Noman Khan.
Noman? No, that's not how you say my name.
Noman?
Noman.
Okay, I'll do it. Let me please welcome Umer Noman Khan.
Yes.
Okay.
Thank you for pronouncing my father's name properly.
I always said Noman. I thought it was Noman.
Yeah, you know how people used to make fun of me in school? They used to call me No Man. So for the longest time, I've had anxiety.
That's a nice one.
Yeah, so I even asked my dad to change his name as well because people make too much fun of my
Just say
name.
Umar Khan.
But Umar Khan sounds like some just random Pathan on the street that you meet, you know. Like, I don't want to, like, no offense to the random Pathans on the street, but, like, you know, Umar Khan. There's, like, depth. Umar Noman Khan.
Wow.
You know, you get what I mean? Also, just want to make it clear, my company is not an agency, even though people say that it is, and it's not. That's what I don't want to call it an agency because
What would you call it then?
it's just a creative hub for people to come to and just say, okay, this is something that we have, this is a product that we have, or this is who we are, and can you do something about it and make it better, or make it more creative, or just add your own little touch, or whatever it is. And then it's not, agencies work on B2B. We focus on B2B and 2C, but predominantly C, like customers. So most of my work is related to, like, my clients inspire me because they're so creative on their own. Like, one of my clients is a stylist, the other one's a musician, one's an actual rapper. Third one, there's another one who's boring, who's just a digital marketing client, but pays a lot.
Boring.
Boring, but yeah, most of them are like so cool, and then
They themselves are creative individuals who are
Yeah.
coming to you to be more creative. Yeah.
Not to be more creative, but you know, creativity, the spectrum is so huge, right? Like, you can be creative in one specific domain, and then that's your domain. So if you're a musician, doesn't mean that you are now also good at creating music videos or creating, like, content or whatever it is. Because at the end of the day, what I truly believe is that creativity is a curse. And it sincerely, I believe that through my entire body. Because if you're truly creative, you're more open to being depressed. You're more open to being highly, like, you have very low emotional intelligence. I'm sorry, I'm going to put this to the side a
That's
little
fine.
bit. I don't want
Yeah.
it to fall. And if you're a highly creative individual, you can't help but not be creative. And if you're stuck in let's say, a corporate job, you can't do that job. And that's how traditions and cultures have grown into being, that they make you go to school and then uni,
They
and then
stunt your growth.
yeah, they stunt your growth, and then they're like, okay, this is how we did it, and now you go to university, and after university, you during university you do an internship, and then you get a job, and then that's it. But what if that person that you're telling this to is actually psychologically high in openness? So that means that makes them there's a psychological trait called openness, which is basically creativity. So if you're telling this to someone who's a creative individual, let's say I go to a kid who's 17 and he loves playing the guitar, okay, and he can't help but indulge himself into music. And then I tell him, you know what? Actually, your cousin, he's really good at, like, he did his engineering, and look at him now.
Why don't you follow that?
And he's now in Canada, and he's married, and he has a kid, and he has such a beautiful house, and look at his car, like this and that. A creative person doesn't care about what happens. Like, they don't care about money or any of those things. Like, if you're truly creative, like, let's say if you take Van Gogh, for example, you're cursed with it. And if you're not allowed to be creative, then you'll just implode or explode even. Like, you'll just probably, like, I even go as far as saying that I keep on rejecting job offer after job offer after job offer, and because it's just, I know it's not going to let me live my dream, and let's say 5 years down the line or 10 years down the line or even 5 minutes down the line, I will hate
Yeah.
myself.
So, I mean, that's definitely interesting to think about how creativity can stunt your growth, that it could ultimately be some kind of a curse when you are prevented or not given the platform to do that. And I think there's lots of scenarios where we can see that happening, whether that's in a household setting, whether that's in a family setting. So I think there's a lot we could dig in.
Yeah.
We could relate that to families and how societies function. I just want to take one step back
Yeah.
and just talk a little bit about you coming to Dubai.
Oh yeah.
And
that story.
and like you came here and you are now living here for, has it been 2 years?
No, it's
1 year?
No, Marine, it's been 1 year.
Yeah, 1 year.
1 year and like 10 days.
Okay, so it's been a year since you moved alone, you're living here, and like it's a different environment, of course, to Pakistan, but you also see a lot of Pakistanis here. So how does it feel like coming here? How has your journey been so far?
You want an honest answer, completely honest answer.
Of course.
I hated being like, for the first 8 months, I hated being here.
Really?
I hated it, and the only reason, the sole reason I hated it is because I didn't think I was capable enough of actually doing these things on my own. What I hated was not Dubai in itself. What uh, what I actually hated was, oh, now I have to do all of these things. Oh, my dad used to take care of all the bills. Now I have to do that.
The independent.
The independency, like, as much like I was craving for that moment where I get my first apartment, where I'm financially independent and I have my own business and this and that. Like, I was craving for these things. Like, I have Nova Studios. Nova Studios is my baby. Like, I don't even call it a company. It's my little child. Like, I really purely love it so much. And so I used to dream about these things, and when I got them, and I'm now at the hill, let's say, at the mountaintop, I'm there. Now it's like, what else? What what is after this? Because I didn't think after there was there supposed to be an after this. Because this was the goal. Now I've achieved the goal. So then I realized that, no, it was the dream. Now I've achieved my dream. So now what do I do? And for the first 8 months, I just try to figure out, okay, it's a new environment. Okay, now I have an apartment. I'll be grateful for that. So I'll tell you the entire story, but I'll shorten it down, okay? I move. The first week is like, oh my God, yes, let's go. Dubai, bro. Oh my God, look at that building. Look at that tall building, bro. Look at that tall building. And then, like, the first week was amazing. And then the second week, I realized, oh, I should take care of my finances because I came here with a specific budget. Then I look into the apartment. I go for apartment searching, and then I find out, oh, apartments are actually like very expensive. So where do I live? And now I have to search for an area. Then I find an area that I like, and I'm like, okay, I'll pay for this. After I'm done paying for all of these required things like an apartment, and then first 2 weeks of being in Airbnbs, paid for my company, all of these things, I'm left with 800 dirhams. And even though I've paid the next 3 months of rent, I have 800 dirhams in my account and a newly formed startup that no one knows about or even cares about. No. So what am I supposed to do? That's what I hated, is that I didn't think ahead of time. I just thought, okay, I'll get here and that's it. But what's going to happen next?
Yeah.
What's going to happen for the next 2 years while I'm here, or let's say the 5 years or 10 years that I'm here? So it took me 8 months to slowly of being
Build
broke, like broke for like 3 months, being in so much debt, and then clearing that debt, and then a huge life changes happening.
Do you think it was extra hard because it's Dubai, like because it's a place where it's easy to spend money on things, you know what I mean?
I would say it goes hand in hand because it made it easier. Now if you ask me this question, I would say Dubai is probably the best place to be at right now if you're in your 20s, because you get to meet such a diverse group of people, and that's what you need. You need exposure. So
Mm-hmm.
you know how they say go travel and go do this, so that in your 20s, so that your mind opens up and you learn new things and cultures and traditions. You don't have to do that. With Dubai, you're here and everyone has a different culture. Like right now, the guy who's recording this is probably Syrian or Palestinian. The one outside is Russian. The one I'm talking to is Pakistani, but she lived here her entire life. I'm Pakistani. Then my best friend is actually Jordanian. Then so like everyone has all of these different cultures and traditions. So with Dubai, keeping Dubai in mind, Dubai is just filled with like so much opportunities, so many opportunities. All you have to do is just be patient and just put yourself out there, and you don't even like just have something slightly unique about yourself, just something slightly unique. You don't have to go way like completely novel. No, just something that slightly sets you apart.
Mm-hmm.
And then Dubai awards you, bro. Dubai awards you so much, and I've seen it. Like I've seen it with my own eyes. But then again, Dubai is like so flashy, so you want to spend, spend,
Yeah.
spend, spend, and
So I think you try to find the balance somewhere. You try to figure out how do you balance spending on the flashy things, like enjoying the flashy things, but also keeping to your budget. I guess that takes time and maturity. And
yeah.
one thing I'm curious about is the fact that there's a lot of Pakistanis, there's a lot of Indians here. Do you think the Pakistanis here are different from in Pakistan?
Ah, that's a good question. No.
No,
To an
really?
extent, actually, yeah, Pakistanis here are quite different. First of all, Dubai is highly regulated with rules and regulations and all of that, which I really, really like, which I really adore, and they stick to their rules, and you have to like, if you don't have a certain set of rules, then it's very difficult to operate in it within a society, and Dubai has done that brilliantly, and with and they help you with your, if you're running a business, the laws and regulations actually help you do that. So if you have a career and you're going for a job, the laws and regulations that are set in place are so strong that you feel protected throughout the
Yeah, it
entire
helps
time.
you feel safe.
It
Yeah.
helps you it's one of the safest countries in the world,
Yeah.
one of the safest cities in the world.
Yeah.
And that's at least your, to bring it back to your question, Pakistanis here are different. Yes, they are different, because when you're living in Pakistan, I hear gunshots almost every other day from my rooftop. Like I hear someone, like I saw a guy die right in front of me while I was walking to school. Like I've seen that, in Pakistan. Like I was walking to school. I was in ninth grade. I'm just walking, and there's this thing in Pakistan where, like outside a house, there's this small little kiari is what we call it.
Mm-hmm.
But it's like the small, for people who don't understand what kiari is. I think that's the word, but it's where put like grass and like greenery, and then they guard it with like, I don't know how to explain it.
Fences?
Fences of
Yeah.
sorts. So outside of the house, there's like this green area
Okay,
that
okay.
belongs to the
To the
house.
house. Okay, got
Yeah.
it. Yeah.
Um, so that one, that Kiari, that place, while I was walking there, um, now keep in mind this is like a 13-year-old kid who's walking to school. I see a guy dead inside that Kiari, like with that guarded area, and he's covered in blood, and he's in like I'm like trigger warning, all
Yeah.
of those things. So now I've seen that, and now I see it, and I'm like, is that a dead guy? Okay, like we just started off with such
You
a we
just
just
casually brought that into the conversation.
no, but like you need to understand, like, right? Because if you are exposed to an environment like that at the
Makes sense.
age of 13 or 12 or 11 or whatever it is, even though I was exposed to it at 13, people are exposed to it at the age of 3 as well, maybe 2. Like kids are exposed to it throughout their entire life. You think that just happened at the age of 13? No, it was built up, and then I saw that thing as well.
Yeah.
And when that happened, I just went to my school, and my school's like, why are you late? And I'm like,
How do you explain?
sir, please not right now. I think there's a. And then police came, and then they picked him up, and then like, the guy was murdered basically. And then I've seen that. Then I've also seen a guy get shot and dead outside my house, right outside my house. So if I've seen those things and I've grown up in an environment like that, obviously when I come here, and obviously any Pakistani who comes to Dubai, the safest country in city in the world, from one of the worst situations that you could be living in, and then you come here. There's a huge shift in environment, and then your environment plays a huge role with who you are and how you are with
For
people.
sure.
So I think that's how Pakistanis are changed here as well. Like while I was coming here, the cab driver, I asked him, I was like, "How are you doing?" and like, "How's life?" and "Are you happy?" and this and that. And then he's like, "Why? Where are you going? You look all dressed up." And then I'm like, "I'm going to a podcast." And then he's like, "That's really nice." And then he's like, What do you do?" And I told him what I did. I said I run a creative company. He's like, "So is this your dream?" And he's a Pakistani guy. I couldn't even fathom that back in Pakistan, a driver could be asking me about what my dream is. You
Oh,
know,
interesting.
what my dream is, and are you happy with this dream? So he's like, "Was this your dream?" Like a cab driver was asking me, "Was this your dream?" And I'm like, "Yeah." And then I said, Do you have any dreams?" He's like, "Yeah, I did, and I accomplished it." And I said, "What was the dream?" He said, "I wanted to build a house for myself, and while working here in Dubai for the past this many, I think 8 or 10 years, I think he said, I've been able to build a house for my family back in Pakistan." So, yes, coming here to Dubai, Pakistanis are different because they become more optimistic.
Interesting.
They become more open to things. They learn different cultures. They learn different even languages and traditions and all of these things. Their mind becomes so open that, and Dubai in itself rewards them so much that they are able to provide for not their family but also fulfill dreams
Yeah.
and not just put their kids to like school, but do way more than that, go above and beyond by
I love
just
that.
driving a cab here, you know? Like, I don't want to stereotype and say Pakistanis just drive cabs here, no. But that's the conversation that I had, and that made me so happy. He's like, my dream was fulfilled 6 months ago. I'm
I
happy
love
with my
that. That's
life.
so beautiful. And you were, first of all, it's crazy to fathom that, you know, that was the environment that, you grew up in, and then when you came here, you see that it's so different. And I don't know, I just realized that there are so many things that we take for granted living here. And so when you came here, you witnessed how, and that plays a role in how Pakistanis then become here,
Yeah.
because we grew up in a society that's more, I guess, that's more safe. We take things for granted. We are optimistic. Maybe we're a little spoon fed as well. It's like a mix of both. But um but you can see how culture plays such a significant role in the types of Pakistanis in both
Yeah.
countries. um One thing that you mentioned, you started off by talking about how,
Is it a dead guy?
yes, so
You started the conversation with a
I
dead guy,
don't know
Umer.
how to, yeah,
And you
okay.
said I'm sometimes funny, bro. So I was like, you know
That's
what?
not
I
funny.
know it's not funny. I was like, I'm gonna go the exact opposite. I'm like,
Oh,
I'm gonna talk about this, bro.
bro. Okay,
By the way,
so
this is edible, right?
of course it is. It's Karak with Mehreen, bro.
Like fake karak.
No, all the studio operators love it. Okay, so
Yeah, it's really nice karak, by the way.
so you were mentioning when you talked about you saw the dead body, you saw people being murdered, you saw these types of things, and that affects individuals a lot. That affects their mental health. That affects lots of
Mm.
mentally their things that they're going through growing up. And I know you talk a lot about mental health. You've talked a lot about depression, and even though you've talked about your journey, I want to talk a little bit about society in general, and whether you think mental health still today is dismissed in Pakistan society. Do you think that's changed? How do you think mental health is approached today in Pakistan?
That's a that's a good question, especially if you ask me. I haven't. The last time it was. I mean, I went to Pakistan 2 months ago, so I think I'm the right person to ask for this question.
Yes.
um, Back when I started going to therapy, I started going at the age of 16. That was 2015.
Hmm.
Okay, so that was my first ever therapy session. That's when the conversation around mental health was extreme. There was a huge stigma around it.
Hmm.
Not only stigma, it was
How old
just
were you, sorry, when you started
16.
therapy? Okay.
So that was my first therapy session. And the only reason I was fortunate enough, let's say, to go to therapy is because my mom has depression, so she goes to therapy, and she goes to a psychoanalyst and all of these things. So she understood me like when I told her. So it's probably within my genetics. That's how they diagnosed me. They said that it's basically within your genetics. But I was fortunate enough. I don't think that's the right word to use, but I think I was fortunate enough to have a mother like the mother that I have, Alhamdulillah, that she took me to my first ever therapy session. Not only my first, but actually quite literally the last one that I had, she took me to it too as well.
Wow.
And but the conversation around mental health and all of the depression and all of these things has actually become very normal in Pakistan. It's become very normalized. It's become so normal now
Okay.
that it is almost near to impossible to get a therapy session booking or an appointment with any good therapist in Pakistan, at least in Karachi. And you have to book like months in advance. Like, can you imagine? Like, and I'm not talking about one specific therapist. I'm talking about the entire city.
Wow.
That's how difficult
That
it is to.
is crazy.
That is
It
crazy.
has progressed, and it was not like that when you were 16, right?
It was not. It was like, please come,
Someone
sometime,
come,
come.
please.
We know you're mentally going through it. Someone please come to therapy and fix yourself. Realize this. But I think it's only because of the age of the internet and all,
Yeah.
like not just I mean, the internet played a huge role in getting people into therapy sessions, but it also played a huge role into people making people realize that actually, yeah, you know what, I think there might be something wrong mentally within me. And now it's actually become extremely, extremely, extremely difficult to even get a therapy session in Pakistan. You have to get it online, and from like either online and from someone who will book you in the next 3 weeks because they have full slots, and they're not just in one like
Wow.
what's it called, hospital, not a hospital,
Clinic.
clinic. They're not just working in one clinic. If you're a good therapist worth your salt, you're working in multiple clinics and you're booked throughout. So
But
yeah.
do you think that's only within the younger generation, as in maybe these children are hiding it from their parents? Do you think that the older generation is still not accepting of or understanding of this yet? I mean, you were lucky, of course, with your mother was understanding, but from your experiences or from what you've seen.
I mean, since the city that I grew up in is Karachi. Now, Karachi is one of the biggest cities in the world. Karachi is so big that it could just be a province of its own. Like that's one of the movement that was happening with Karachi, is that they wanted it to be a separate
With, I didn't
province,
know
and that's how big Karachi is. Even I couldn't explore it. So there's multiple different class systems that are living within Karachi or even Pakistan. There's multiple different class systems, but I'm just going to talk about Karachi, for example, okay? And assume, let's just say for the sake of argument, assume that Karachi signifies the entirety of of Pakistan, okay? Because it's good and bad, and it's like there's two sides of Karachi.
Mm-hmm.
So there's one side of Karachi which is the educated side, which is the middle class, or like slightly above middle class, that sort of understands about mental health and all of these things. So if you're in that category, then you can make a case that yes, people, your parents are open to you going to therapy and they're fine with it. They're not just gonna say it's all in your head. They understand it too because they see it online as well. They're not the only one. We're not the only ones with the internet. I think my parents spend more time on the internet than I do. We're on every
True
single
though.
platform. Like my mom sending me TikToks, Facebook Reels, like Facebook Reels, Instagram Reels, like on Instagram, then on WhatsApp as well, then in a group chat. Like she's like, I'm like, Mom, what do you do? She's like, on my phone all the time, and,
Same.
and I'm like, you're way too much on your phone. Like I don't even have TikTok downloaded. But yeah. Um. So what was your question again? I'm sorry.
My question is about the older generation. Are they
Yeah.
understanding yet?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So if you're now, I'm just making a case, okay? If you're in the upper and middle class area where you're educated enough, let's not even call it class system, but like class system is how Pakistan is, or like even South Asian culture in general is characterized as.
Mm-hmm.
Like they characterize themselves within classes, okay? Like there's elite class
Income
and then,
classes.
yeah, income classes. So
Okay.
like there's an elite class and there's a middle, like below that, like upper middle class, and there's middle class, lower class. So if you're in an educated class, let's say, okay, if you're in an educated class, it doesn't have to be lower, upper, nothing. If you're educated enough and your parents are also on the internet and they are being fed this information as well, because the internet is educating everyone throughout, like constantly, then yes, parents are like letting their kids, taking their kids to therapy.
Therapy.
And quite honestly, parents themselves now require therapy as well. Like there's a different domain that has opened as well for couples and
Couples
like
therapy.
couple therapy and parent therapy, like how to deal with your kids. And even trust me, even those slots are booked
Wow.
because I'm friends with a lot of therapists. Like a lot of my friends ended up doing psychology majors and all of that, and they're like, we can't even find an internship because they're full, they're packed, because everyone is like, they talk about this hasn't is there's no
Wow.
stigma around it whatsoever, which is really good for Pakistan, alhamdulillah. But there's a separate side that is, even if they're educated, even if they're elite class, whatever it is, their traditional values and their cultural, their old traditional values are so strong that they can't even fathom that you even think that namaz can't just solve your issue, you know.
Exactly.
They can't even fathom that. They're like, oh, it's all in your head. If you're
Just
sad,
pray.
just pray,
You're
just
not
pray, and you'll be
praying. You're
fine.
not a good
You're
Muslim.
not a good Muslim. And I'm like, initially, from I think I started getting like depressive episodes from the age of 14, but I was just told initially, like I was like, I get sad. I don't know, I don't understand why I get like this wave of sadness. I was like, okay, I'll start praying, I'll start exercising, I'll start doing this and that and this and that, and I'll join a specific club, hang out with much cooler
You'll
friends.
do
This and I'll do
things
things.
to occupy
Yeah,
your mind and your time.
but it's still happening because the issue is that people don't realize that depression is not you being like sick. It's not a sickness. Depression is not an emotion.
Mm.
It's an illness.
Mm.
That's what it is. So I think the realization of s- um let me articulate this properly because it's such an important
Take your
point.
time.
I think the shift needs to happen between realize no, let me say that again. I think what people really need to realize is that depression is not an emotion, it's a sickness. And since you're not smart enough to understand that sickness or illness, or when you get sick, you go to a professional, right? So if you have a sickness, you should go to a professional. And you can't tell someone who has that illness and just say, you know what, there's a namaz remedy that you can do. There's actually recite the Quran. You should do those things in general. But even the Prophet used to get depressed. Even the prophets, like there is this beautiful Surah Ashura, in the Holy Quran. Now, in Surah Ashura, it starts off with like the first page is just about the Prophet and like how he's talking about, actually, you know what? Yeah, let me just talk about this, and then I'll tell you another example of the Prophet being depressed and sad. Um, so it starts off with Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, and how he's been dealing with his people, like how they've been annoying him and this and that. Then it goes into Hazrat Musa alayhi salam and his story, and it's such a beautiful story because I read this and it just brought me down to tears because I was going through this and it made me realize, wow, like even prophets went through this, you know. So Hazrat Musa alayhi salam, he punched a guy. Now he was born. He was raised in Pharaoh, like the Pharaoh's castle, palace, whatever it. He was raised there. Then he ended up punching a guy, and that guy died. This is his story. Okay. Now there's a warrant out there for Hazrat Musa alayhi salam, and now he's in the desert. And imagine, just put yourself in his scenario, in his mindset. Okay. Now he's in the desert, and there's this voice in the sky that's talking to him, and it's actually telling him that you're a prophet. And now that what you have to do is that the staff that you have in your hand will make a miracle out of this. If you throw it on the floor, it becomes a serpent. Imagine the psyche. There's a warrant out for you, and there like people who want to kill you, and now there's a voice in the sky who's talking to you, and now you're a prophet, and the voice is telling you, and it's directly Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. It's literally God himself that's talking to you. And he's telling you that you have to go to the palace on your own. You need to go there. and we will make sure that nothing happens to you. And he says, this is so beautiful. This is Surah Ashura, maybe the sixth or seventh ayah. Hazrat Musa alayhi salam replied by saying, I am too scared to go there, and I am afraid that my tongue won't speak because there is a warrant out for me, and these people want to kill me. So what am I supposed to do? Like, I'm scared. I don't know what to do. And God just says, you just need to have faith that I am going to be there and I will listen to these conversations with you, and just have faith and trust me. Just go there and just see it through. And that blew my mind away, because I was like, okay, even despite all of these like depression and mental health illness and all of these things, I should still see things through, you know. And
Continue.
even with there's this another dua. If you want me to talk about this, I love talking about this. There's a surah duha. Okay, surah duha is basically when Prophet Muhammad. Actually, you know what? I'm not going to talk about this. I don't want to get into the Islamic debate
No.
and someone to comment and say he doesn't know what he's talking about. He's wrong about this.
No, but I completely agree. I think there is so much wisdom when you read the Quran, when you read about the stories of the prophets, and you realize, I mean, that was such a beautiful example of that showcases that even the prophets went through that. And so, I mean, if you can read it in their stories, and they talked about it, then why aren't we talking about it? It's
Exactly.
like we are human beings. We're just like, this is meant to, it's not meant to happen, but it's just that we're human beings at the end of the day, and like this happens.
It does, and it doesn't have to do with the fact that you are not mentally strong enough, or like,
Yeah.
oh, you're not doing this, that's why it's happening. Oh, you're not. There are certain set of things that you need to do, at least in life, so that you don't end up being depressed. At least have a
Of course, like there are tools,
yeah,
mental tools
Yeah.
or things that you can develop on, I believe.
exactly.
But it's not that you can, I don't know, you cannot just say that it's like an emotion, as you were saying. Like it's not something that you can
Just put it to the
brush it
side.
off the,
Yeah.
yeah, exactly,
It's
just
like,
under the rug,
Yeah.
just brush it under the rug. So one thing that I was thinking about when you were talking was how it affects men particularly, because do you think that it's much harder for men to express their emotions in a Pakistani society, because men are meant to, I mean, it's not just Pakistan, other parts of the world as well, but I think more so in Pakistan, where men are meant to be like the dominant person who leads the household, the head of the household. So because of that, is there an added pressure?
that's a very good question, Marine. Um, well, if you look at the statistics, the amount of people that there are more men that die from suicide than women.
Yes.
So if you look at statistically, more men commit suicide than women.
Yes.
More men die in wars, and like more men die in, like, there's a bunch of different statistics, but suicide in particular, there are more men committing
Yes.
suicide. And the added pressure, the fact that you said the added pressure, I don't think, I think a conversation about a change of perspective needs to take place.
Mm.
Now, what I mean by that is that there's no such thing as the man of the house anymore. Like, this doesn't exist. And the man is like, you got to stick it to the man. That, like, that's a phrase that they use for corporate. So the man of the house is just a tyrannical figure. Now that tyrannical figure could be your mother as well, could be your father as well, could be an older sibling too. Like, there's no such thing. But with men in general, like, let's say I'll explain this in a very easy manner. Okay, let's say my grandfather. Okay, he was born in 1950s. Now, he was born when Pakistan had just become independent. 1947, 3 years after that, he was born.
Mm-hmm.
Now, he's born in a war-like structure. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
he's grown up throughout the seeing that. Now, from the ages of 0 to 21 until his mind is completely developed. Also, there's no internet, and also there's like limited knowledge on everything. Also, there's a very difficult way to converse with anyone whatsoever. So, and you're growing up in this sort of environment from the age of 1950s till 70s when you're married, then obviously, out of love, you will have to step up and protect your family. So I don't think it was because the man of the house needs to be the provider. That's how it became what it became. In the South Asian region, the reason that they say that women should just stay at home and men should go out and like do their work. It's so, in my opinion, this is how it began. You grew up from 1950s till 70s. You grew up just looking at like just war and like 1965 or 1971 in Bangladesh got its independence. And my dad tells me these stories of like there used to be a siren and we all had to like run out of our houses and get into this hole in the ground so that the bombs were dropping. And like I've heard these stories. And if you grow up in an environment like that, what do you think? You think you're gonna send your daughter out to like help and guard? No, you're going to step up as the man and you're going to be like, no, I need to protect my family, because intrinsically, biologically, genetically, men are supposed to be, are built to be providers. Like, oh, look, fire, I brought something. Like, that's how men are. Like, it's so funny. Like, if you're in a relationship, okay, and you tell your like your boyfriend or husband or someone who loves you, truly, if a man truly loves you, if you tell him, find me a pretty seashell, and you're at a beach and you say, find me a pretty seashell, that man will literally, if he loves you, he will go out, find a bunch of seashells and come back and throw it in front of you and say, I didn't know what you would like, so I got this. That's just how they are, right? So if you're growing up in that environment, you are obviously not going to let your wife or your daughter go out when you don't even know what's going to happen to you if you go out, So you're obviously going to be the one to step up and and do something, be the man. That's where it came from. And then when my dad was born, he saw this as well. He was also grown up in a similar sort of environment. He was
so
not
he
grown
continued
up.
it. Yeah.
So it sort of continued. And then it wasn't war-like, but it was somewhat like intrinsic war. Now there's a war going on between political parties who are killing people. Like there was this 1991, there was MQM, there was a political party, MQM, who was just, can I say this? But they were drilling people. So they were picking people out of their houses and drilling them. Now he's grown up with that. Like they used to run and like hide, and they had these secret layers within their house where they used to hide if like an army or like a ranger or someone came and like picked them up and then like drilled their brains out. So now they're living in that environment. So you think that they would send their women out? No, they won't. So now, but then the age of the internet came. And we were born. Gen Z came out. And Gen Z is like this issue of a generation, bro.
What do you mean?
It's like this. I'm part
We're
of Gen
just
Z
too
and I'm
vocal.
like, oh.
Are we too vocal?
We're too it's the first generation that has realized that there's so many.
There's a problem.
There's a problem. There's so many problems. And we need to speak up about it. And we have the internet to speak up about it. And we have our own voice. And we have this and that. And we can be offended about this. And we should be offended about that. And we should make sure that this is like, we should ban this corporation. And we should do this. We should do that. Like they're so like out there that it's like sometimes like it's amazing. That's great. Good for you. But if someone else isn't doing what you truly believe in, don't cancel them. Don't go like, this person, kill them. Because it's also brought like that nature of if they don't follow what I follow, then they should just go kill themselves.
Yeah, I understand. I think like there's the extremes. Like sometimes we can be, I've seen Gen Z culture becoming too sensitive to like literally anything. Yeah, and then you go to the extreme and you cancel culture has become toxic as well. So I understand.
Cancel culture has always been toxic.
I don't know if
started off
the
with
roots.
I mean, it didn't start off as toxic.
Yeah.
It started off with like like people like Kevin Spacey. And
Yeah,
this and
it was
that.
like rapists and things like it. The reason it started off was quite valid
and like something that I could stand behind. But now you can't handpick like micro influencers who are just doing like they don't even know anything.
Yeah.
And like you pick up a tweet that they made 12 years ago, and you're like, oh, racist. No, people change, bro. People like you can't make that claim anymore. But yeah, with this generation, coming back to your point, With this generation now, they're exposed to so many different things. Before, you didn't have this communication. You didn't know that there was a Kardashian family in the US who is making billions, and they have this show and all of these things. You didn't know these
Yeah.
things. Now you are exposed to all of this, and you're exposed to like every sort of culture, tradition, anything whatsoever possible. Not only that, every app has your data, so they know who you are as a person. So they're targeting ads towards you. So they're focused on you, and they're not just doing it to you. Here's where I bring at that point. They're also doing it to your parents as well. So they're targeting ads to your parents as well. So your parents' thinking is also
Also
changing.
changing, it's evolving.
It's
That's for
evolving,
sure. Yeah.
and they're completely changing as well. Not
So
not completely, but to an extent where they understand you. And what?
continue, continue.
Oh no.
Don't worry, don't worry.
Okay.
Continue.
Um,
But just to add on to your point, and I completely understand where you're coming from when you say that this is the reason it originated and it started and it continued, because this is what each generation saw, and then they continued it, and then our generation kind of, we are privileged enough to have access to the internet to acknowledge that there are certain problems and that we need to be vocal about it. So do you think that the society, the whole dynamic of the household structure, where like the man is the breadwinner, the woman is the household, the one in
Housewife.
charge, yeah, housewife, is that changing? And is that in Pakistan? And is that changing at like the pace in which it's changing?
I think if you ask me for my opinion,
Yes.
it's changing quite rapidly.
Okay.
Because first of all, people are realizing two brains are better than one. Secondly, they're also realizing that women are competent enough and smart enough to do things on their own and actually take charge and be also assertive and dominant, and make money and do all of these things, because they're now living in a different sort of environment. They don't even have to go out. First, your issue was that you're not going to send your women out. Women don't even have to go out. I work from home, bro. I work from home. So
But don't you think this culture of not sending women out is still there?
it's still there to an extent. It is still there. For a very small minority of people that I have come across are
Interesting.
like this. A very small minority who are very stuck up on their traditional values. Only they are like this. But everyone else is changing rapidly because the economy is dying. So they're like,
Everyone needs to work.
everyone needs to work, everyone needs to do something. Even the women, even from the ages of like 15, 16, my dad's like telling my younger sister, like, come up with a business idea. Your brother will finance it. You come up with it. You run it. You make sure you do it. You go out. And I was like, I'll connect you with people and this and that. And my father is telling her, you know, and so this is changing. This is evolving because you need that extra help. And what people have now started to realize, what Pakistanis have started to realize as well, not just Pakistanis, South Asian people have started to realize as well, is not only are women smart enough to do things on their own, they don't need men. They really don't. Which is they really don't. In fact, if anything, men need women. Men need women more than they need
Yeah,
men.
men
you know.
need women
Men need
more.
women more. That's what they're realizing, because women bring in a different array of let's say different array of characteristics and values and this and that, and like different skill set and different temperament levels, emotional intelligence, and all of this. Like, women have a completely different mindset as to what men have. So if you combine those two, you become a super team, you know. But if you keep on saying no, you're different, and you're different, you're different, you're different,
And you are only supposed to handle this and that.
then you're like done.
Yeah.
Then you can't survive in an economy such as the one that you're living in. You cannot possibly survive in this economy. So I think, to answer your question,
It's changing.
it is changing. It's rapidly changing. Regardless of whatever the circumstances are because of why it's changing, women are now not only realizing, but men are also realizing that, yeah, maybe we're wrong. Actually, you know what? We are wrong.
So I agree in the sense that it's true. People are realizing both men and women should work. They're both capable. They're both competent. They both need to earn. Two is better than one. I completely agree with that. I think that's changing. But do you think that the the roles, as in the household responsibilities, should primarily be held by the woman, even if she's working, is still prevalent.
That is still prevalent. That is still there. However, slowly, gradually, you can't have everything. Like you can't have your cake and eat it too, and like you can't have everything all at once, right? So if you slowly like transition into like, okay, now you can go out and work, like you've given them the permission to go out and do their work, even though they're kicking ass and like making more money than you are actually. So um, even though if they're doing that, they men still expect, okay, yeah, you should come back and I should have some food on the table, maybe like I'll do the dishes.
Do you think that's fair?
That is completely fair. No, I don't think that's fair, honestly. I don't think that's fair. Because let's say if there's household stuff and then there's cooking and all of these things, these aren't skills that only a woman should know. Like, get it through your head. Like, if, bro, you should know how to cook. You should know how to iron your clothes. You should know how to clean your house. You should know how to clean up and clean up after yourself. These are skills not of a woman. These are skills of a human being, of an operational human being. You should know all these skills regardless, you know? And to expect, okay, like my wife, who's also working like 12 hours a day, will come back home and then have the energy to like be like, oh honey, I made food for you and here you go, man of the house. No, that's not gonna happen. And that's slowly changing, and you will be taking shifts. Okay, let's, okay, now maybe you do the food and I'll help you with it, and then I'll do the dishes,
Mm-hmm.
but you take charge with the food.
Mm-hmm.
Or I'll do the food today because I feel like making this because men love cooking as well. There are men who, if there's men who say that they don't love cooking, are men who haven't tried cooking. Okay, if you
Oh
try,
wow.
if you actually try it, it's so peace, it's so
Therapeutic.
therapeutic, and it's so nice. And even I started like, and I started experimenting with different foods, and like, with my with, I mean, like, I can say this on your podcast. With my girlfriend, I even started like experimenting with food and like stuff, and like I was, okay, here's your breakfast, here's your food, like try it, try it. I made a new thing. Like I'm so excited about these things. Okay, no one else makes coffee in the house because my coffee is the best coffee that I make. So even when I invite you over to my apartment, you will have the coffee that I make, and you'll be like, "Wow,
This is the
we should.
best
This
coffee.
yeah, we should like Arabica can go to
Sure.
feel good tea
I
can
don't
like
even know.
feel good
Don't
tea
go
can
there.
like feel good tea is like, and
I don't even like coffee.
okay, is that why Karak? Okay, it doesn't go with your brand. Is that what you're saying?
Yes, exactly.
But
But so coming back to your point where you were mentioning how like these are things that are changing. I think that I still see like the household responsibilities primarily being given to the women, and I understand that these are things that definitely can be divided, which is slowly evolving. We're seeing a change, so that is definitely great. And I think why we see that change has a lot to do with parents and children and how parents and children interact with each other. So for example, though, even you were mentioning that your sister, it was because of your father who encouraged her and said start a business and things like that. So like that whole family dynamic plays a huge role in how you become growing up. Like the
Ex-
reason I'm doing this because of my father as well. So like
that's amazing.
parents play such a big role in our mindset and our values. And so one thing that I think about when it comes to Desi households and Desi parents is our parents, they make a lot of sacrifices for us, and they articulate it and they express it all the
They
time
don't
to us.
articulate it. They scream at it.
Yeah, they say it to us all the time. So my first question is, do you think it's fair that they get to always tell you about their sacrifices and that you should know about your parents' sacrifices?
I think it's essential for you to know about your parents' sacrifices, because at one point in time you will be doing those sacrifices, if not for your kids, for yourself or for your partner. But for yourself, definitely you will be doing them. And that's when you will realize, oh, what my dad used to say, like turn the AC off because we got to pay, but the bill's going to be higher. Like, or this is a small example, but like some things like, oh, I'm paying for your uni, and you're like, I'm paying for not your uni, I'm paying for your school, and I'm paying this much money. And what are you doing? You're not even getting the grades. And they make it very evident every single week, every single day, that they're making these sacrifices. Like, I come back home at 8 p.m. and you guys are not even studying properly, and this is the grades that you bring. Like, what are you doing? Like you get what I mean, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that is essential, because that is essential to it's essential to have, to vocalize the sacrifices that you're making for your child, is because so that when your child's growing up, they become grateful of the fact that, yes, thank God my father did that for me, because I see my friends and their fathers didn't do that for them. So thank God my father did these
And that's
sacrifices,
why I'm here
and
today.
that's why I'm here today. And thank God he let me. He yelled at me at the point that he did, because right now I would much rather have my dad's opinion than anyone else's, because that's the opinion that I value, that I've learned from, that I've seen, and I've grown up with. So it's there's this, what was that, क्या line बोली थी मैंने उस दिन, उस वक्त तुम्हें क्या बोला था मैंने,
Oh, you were talking about
उसने उस दिन मैंने,
parents. They don't
like,
know what they are. They're big people and.
yeah, but like
But wait, before you mentioned that, so you were talking about how it's very important, it's essential that they mention these sacrifices. I completely agree with that. My question is, they mention these sacrifices, so then children become conditioned to always have to meet their parents' expectations because of those sacrifices. Like, they're like, we need to grow up, we need to sacrifice our own goals and our own ambitions to meet our family's expectations because they made all these sacrifices. Like, we feel guilty if we don't follow what our parents want us to follow.
because they do guilt trip us. I mean, they do. Your parents do guilt trip you after they mention all the sacrifices that they made for you, and then you are throwing it all away. But they're not wrong, because if I'm making, let's say, 10,000 dirhams a month, and my son's fee for school is 6,000 dirhams a month, and my rent that I have to, the money for groceries that I have to take out and everything is like 3,000 dirhams, what am I left with? You know? So now I have to tell them, like, I work my ass off to make sure that you go to school, and you don't even like, and then kids also get, they have this, they feel this pressure, like, from their parents, and which they should, because the world is a difficult place, and you will be pressurized at times, and you will be told by your boss or even yourself at times that I made these sacrifices. I sacrificed my current self to make my future self happy. So you are already making sacrifices. And one of the things of growing up is just realizing that you will be making a lot of sacrifices. And one of those sacrifices is one of those sacrifices is picking a certain set of, let's say, work or profession or thing or to do and to excel in, and to realize that this is what my calling is, so you will end up making sacrifices, no matter if you like it or not, no matter if your parents are pressurizing you, and now you have these unrealistic, not unrealistic, but realistic expectations that your parents have from you. Regardless of that, doesn't matter. You still have to keep in mind that those sacrifices need to be told to you first of all. Then you need to have that pressure within you so you can handle pressure, because it's also conditioning you to handle pressure and
Interesting.
being in that state. And then when you grow up, you will realize all of those things that your father used to say to you, and you used to get so mad, and now you're realizing, oh, he was right, and I need to call my father up, and I need to talk to him and like ask him what his opinion is, because this is what I truly believe in. And I think it's a very nice thing to end the podcast as well, is realizing when you're a parent and your kids have grown up and they've moved out, and they have their own families, they're doing their own thing, they don't require you financially. Before, your kids were attached to you because you needed, that you were providing for them financially.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, you were paying for their, from their pampers till their university. Okay, it's like you're paying for everything, right? But now they're at a stage where they're financially independent, and they have their own thing, they have their own apartment, they have, like me. Okay, like I have my own thing, like I haven't asked my dad for money since the age of 19. Like I haven't, like I don't, like my dad was, it's not an ATM for me, right? So, but a successful parent is a parent that even after they've raised their kid in a way that they that their kid is independent on their own, but yet still that kid calls them and asks them for their advice, and still misses them and tells them that they love them, even though they don't need them financially. Okay, dad, I'm calling you for money. No, it's not that. I'm calling you because, dad, I need your opinion. I need your advice. I respect your advice more than anyone else, and you know me the best. That's why I'm calling you. And also, I love you and I miss you.
Mm.
That's what a father should be aiming towards to be, and that's basically what tells you that you're a successful parent or not. If your kid, once they become financially independent and they don't see you as an ATM anymore, and they don't call you anymore, and they throw you in some what's it called, like a parent, like that home, like where they,
Parent, I don't know.
like
Yeah,
like adult
senior, I don't know.
senior facility or whatever, they throw you in that, then that means you lost your kid. You lost your kid. You were not a successful parent. But if your kid calls you back and still talks to you and misses you and loves for you and cares for you, and still, like when I go back, I'm 20, almost 25. I When I go back to Pakistan, I make sure that I sleep in the middle of my mom and dad on their bed. I make sure, because the energy and the positivity and all of those, like the everything else combined, that's emitting from both of my parents, I feel it, and I wake up with like an optimistic attitude and like this happy like feeling and all of those things. And that's when I know that, yeah, my dad, whatever he did, even though it did cause trauma at times, even though it was difficult at times, even though, yes, he was not the one who understood my mental health and my depression up until it got to an extent where I was self harming. He didn't understand it. He still probably doesn't even understand it, but my mom did. And parents are just kids with overgrown bodies. They're just that. They don't even know. When your first kid is born, even you wouldn't know what to do with it. You'd be like, I mean, he's cute, but he keeps on
What
crying.
is
Like,
this thing?
what is this thing? What do I do? I'll make sure it's safe. But you feel this like, oh, now I gotta make sure that this kid is okay. And that love shows in different ways and different formats and different,
Exactly.
like, and that love is also shown in sacrifices. And since you're a human being, you will tell them, I've been sacrificing all of my money. I don't buy new things for myself. I buy new things for
For you.
you all the time because I care about you. That's my love for you. And you're like, no, dad, you don't love me, and this and that. You can't do that. Because trust me, at one point in time, when you're 22, 23, 24, 25, 30, you will realize, and I hope you realize before it's too late, that actually what my parents did, even what they did their best.
I love that. I really love that. That was the perfect way to end this episode. And I think that it's so true that our parents are our kids in overgrown bodies, and it's just that they're also human beings,
They're still
and
learning, they're still figuring it out.
exactly, and it's totally okay. And of course there are things that they do that may not be right, that may have caused certain problems, certain traumas, as you mentioned, but they're also learning and they're also realizing, and you are too, and it's okay. And I don't like the victim mentality where we're always blaming other individuals, like it's just
Oh,
some
my dad put me through this,
yeah,
so now I'm
it's
like
not always our parents' fault or our family's fault,
even if it is.
even if it is, it's like, I don't know, they have the right intentions in mind. Like that's the best thing to remember, that they have the best of intentions in mind for you.
Exactly.
The way they express it is in different forms, and even if the expression is somehow communicated in a way where you don't understand at first, you will understand.
Exactly.
So
So it's also like their expression is based on their temperament, right? And their age. So if my dad is 50 and he has high blood pressure and he's expressing his love for me, he's not going to express it in like, come here, son, let me give you a hug. He's not going to do that. His temperament and the way he grew up and his environment and the life he's living and his high blood pressure and this and that and all of his health issues, all of these things combined will showcase a different type of love. But just keep in mind that if your parent has like taken care of you from the age of till before you were born, like from as soon as you were born till up till now, if they've done that, anything they've done in between has just been with the pure intention, as you said, of just having the best interest in
for
mind.
you.
And not only that, it's done out of pure love, and that love is showcased in different formats. Love is not showcased, I love you beta, and this and that. No,
There are different love
there's different
languages.
love.
Yeah.
My dad's love language is not to say I love you.
What is it?
It's
Acts of service?
no, it's to give me a solution and tell me I told you so. That's him saying
I
I
love
love
that.
you. That's
Thank you so much for this episode. I
Thank you
really
for calling me.
enjoyed it. We end with our little cheers, the classic.
we did it on Women's Day.
Yes, and today's Women's Day. Happy Women's
Happy
Day.
Women's Day. I mean, I don't know when this is gonna come out, but happy women. Oh my God, is this feel good tea?
And we have the feel good tea that you have
No
been
way.
waiting for.
Really?
Yes, you've been asking me that you want to try to open it up.
Bro, is it like customized to me?
Open and you'll see.
I'm so excited.
Yeah, it's holographic.
Oh no, that's so cool. A hug in a cup. You know what that means in Urdu?
No.
Take a shit in a cup. Dear Umer, every cup of Karak has a story. Thank you for sharing yours with me. Hope you remember. Wow, can you call me to your podcast like every week? Bro, just look at this. This is so cool.
Well, enjoy it.
And
Thank
it's
you
all
very
my
much.
name.
Thank you for coming. And send me pictures when you have make the
I
tea.
won't just send you pictures. I will send you a collage of pictures, bro, and videos. And like, probably, do you want me to make a reel about this too?
Do it. Do it.
By the way, as one last thing, Nova Studios is one thing that I've realized is that women are so insanely smart, bro. Like my entire company, like we have 10 people. Out of those 10 people, 8 are women.
Wow, I love that.
8 are women, and they all and because they all keep me in check. And I'm the one guy who's out about like trying to find customers, and these are the guys dealing with everything. Like because they bring so much to the table. And they just do good.
Best way to end this episode on Women's Day.
Yeah.
Yes.
8 out of 10 are women. Not because I'm a turkey, bro, by the way. Just want to put that out. Just because they're competent.
Good disclaimer. Thank
Okay,
you.
thank
Hello, everyone. I'm so excited to introduce my partnership with Feel Good Tea. They're this amazing company that sells these beautiful tea boxes with a variety of tea flavors, which I'll showcase to you by opening this beautiful box. So as you can see, there's all these variety of flavors that are delicious, and Feel Good Tea, they truly value the love for tea that we Karak with Mehreen value as well. They love having conversations over tea. So because of this, I'm so excited for this partnership, and you can get this beautiful box too for yourself or for your family or friends using this discount code on the screen.